Over 5,000 former senior Israeli defense officers have written a letter to the US president urging Joe Biden not to sign a rekindled nuclear deal with Iran, arguing that the deal currently being negotiated gives Iran a clear path to nuclear weapons. In the letter, the officers write that the agreement creates a clear legal pathway for Iran to obtain nuclear weapons by 2031, while denying the signatories of any tools to prevent that eventuality. Now I'm joined by our guest, the Vice Admiral Eliezer Marum, former Commander-in-Chief, Israeli Army. Really appreciate you joining in this conversation today with I-24 News. Well, this letter comes after reports last week that a renewed deal with Iran could be nearing a reality. It's certainly raising concerns for many Israeli security officials. What could this mean for Israel, for security in the region? Could the deal pave the way for nuclear proliferation in the Middle East? Sorry.
Absolutely, yes. I think that we were promised by the USA administration that this will be a stronger and a longer agreement. And unfortunately, this is a shorter and a weaker agreement. First of all, this agreement touches only the enrichment issue, and it doesn't touch other issues that at the end of the day helps the Iranians to materialize to holding a nuclear weapon. First of all, the weaponry group, this agreement is not touching the weaponry group. And secondly, it's not touching the ballistic missiles projects that is running in Iran. So right now, the Iranians are about one short step, few weeks before having enriched uranium in the quality of 90% in an amount that could be enough for about 1 to 3 bombs. Now, with the money that is going to come into the economy of Iran, they are going to close the gap between the weaponry group and the ballistic group and the enrichment group. And at the end of the day, Iran is going to become, in time of less than 2 years, in my understanding, a threshold country, and Israel cannot sit here in the balcony and watch Iran reaching to this stage.
Eliezer, one could also argue that the deal would do nothing to prevent Iran from eventually obtaining nuclear weapons, as many critics have also been arguing, and instead only delay what the deal would make inevitable.
I agree. And I think that at the end of the day, in time of 2 years, we will find Iran in a situation where the enrichment group, the weaponry group, and the ballistic group close the gap, and they are about few weeks, maybe even less, able to break through and become a country that is holding nuclear weapons. Israel cannot stand such kind of a situation.
I also know that there's over 5,000 officers who have gone out of their way to sign this letter and give it to Biden. But don't you think that rekindling a deal like this, being such a cornerstone of Biden's policy on Iran, don't you think it'll take a lot more than just a letter by senior officers for him to reverse his decision on this?
Absolutely, yes. First of all, this letter, I'm signed on this letter as well. Number one. Number two, in my understanding, there is a very, very narrow window of opportunities for Israel. And I think that it's time for Israel to put on the table a very, very good and strong Israeli attack plan on Iranian nuclear sites. And I think that Israel has to carry out an attack like that in the very short upcoming time.
Eliezer, thank you so much. Vice Admiral Eliezer Marum, the former Commander-in-Chief, Israeli Navy. Thank you for your time again.